read model once every second and do something that ends up producing an event that effectively changes the state of that read model.
Right.
That's the way that we continue to, dissolve what you try to cram into an aggregate where it doesn't really belong in an aggregate or an entity. It's really just a projection of things that are happening. I'm booking, in my trip example, I'm booking the flight, I'm booking the hotel, I'm booking the car reservation, car rental.
Right.
These
So
things are all happening maybe at once, maybe serially, but as I'm getting successes from each one, there's, like a fulfillment is a type of saga where, these things get check boxes as they get done. So I think cramming that type of responsibility into something that's highly opinionated, something that must have its own stream of events to store its state, is artificial and clunky.
right.
See it
So
for what it is. It's a projection of other sources of truth, and therefore it is not an aggregate because it doesn't really control its own state.
right. So right. So it can be a projection. So it can be a read model, and I think that's the key. That's the event modeling, or is that the CQRS view of the world? Like
I think it's the event sourcing view of the world, and I think
right.
event sourcing implies CQRS. I think CQRS has come from the implementation side quite heavily in the beginning. But the reality is that if we're talking about state of the entire system according to its subsystems and thinking about those types of problems in a systems thinking, square boxes, what do we control? What are we in control of? What are we not? What are the external stimuli? What are the things that we control? Once we dissect it into that manner of speaking, CQRS takes on a more fundamental definition that talks about this is input and this is output. Not
So
that you have to poke the system to get output, but this is how I view state. This is how I affect state change. Those are the fundamental things. So if we peel away CQRS from implementation details, we start to talk about information architecture, and that's where it matters. And so once you start looking at it from that perspective, then the Saga definition as an entity in the same ilk of an aggregate, it doesn't fit really well. We start to make fake events to say, I want to event source my Saga. Well, now you're doing a whole bunch of translations of external events to then feed back into your own. It just gets messy. Why not just call it what it is? It's a projection of other things. And now you're seeing that I can make helpers that examine that, and they might fire off other commands, either in my own new subsystem that takes care of this, or to external ones if I need. But there's something that is kicked off from a certain state that this read model's in. And we may have one, we may have two, we may have three different things that are acting on this little fulfillment slip of what's going on. And it may be that there's an automation process for booking flights. There might be an automation process for booking hotels or whatever in your trip saga, and that's what you do. So
right.
does that make sense? I think we got to a really good point, because I think, and I was guilty of this years ago, is trying to make an entity out of a long running process to fit it like it was something that just sat in its own stream, which then, by what Andreas was talking about, kind of forced me to think that, oh man, I need another service. I need an orchestration service, because I need something to hold this actual aggregate. And this aggregate doesn't fit in any of these other services. So now I'm forced to, do all this extra stuff, when in reality, it was just a projection. And now I actually am a little bit more free to do those. Now, to Andreas's point, you still want to logically kind of keep it apart if you don't want to, muddy the waters in any specific domain. But in terms of the team that takes care of it, where it lives, how, what disk space it takes up, that can still be part of, any one of those. You shouldn't artificially just say, hey, we need another cluster of stuff because we thought that, this long running workflow is so important. If it has
All
no
right.
real impact on,
All right,
you
Adam.
know,
Let So I think I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to ask some implementation questions based on
Mm-hmm.
what you just explained to me to see if I got what you said, right? I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
flip it around and say, oh, you're implementing a Saga. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
ask you these questions to understand your Saga. First question
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you is, which read model represents the state of your Saga? That's the first and primary anchor question.
Sorry, again, what is that?
Which read model represents the state of your Saga? Because there's a remodel would represent the state of that Saga.
Yeah.
Right? That's the anchor.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's
once
a
I have that,
projection that tells me something about that is the
that tells me
Saga.
like how where's this Saga implemented, right? And then I can ask you which events affect that state.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which events affect that read model? Now I know where they, and then basically, right? And I say those events might belong to other subsystems, right? Those events might be coming from other subsystems, they might not be. But the read model, that's the beauty of a read model. It can all be based on one or multiple. It's irrelevant. So you just, and the other note I have here is an orchestration service is not necessarily needed to do a Saga, because
that's right.
This logic could be distributed in those contexts.
That's correct.
Appropriate, and it's aggregated by this event. And there may be listeners. So then the only question is, you're saying there might also be another system that listens to that read model and generates events, which then feedback changes, right?
Well, that's how you affect.
Kind of
the only way to really affect that fulfillment is the one thing that event modeling does is it gives you that cadence to there's only a few ways to affect state change. And so it forces you to then say, okay, I need to name a process that's going to actually initiate the command to go book that flight. And that might be a whole system. Now I'm looking for an event called flight booked with the price and all that. And wherever my actual read model is sitting for that fulfillment of this whole trip, it then listens for that event. It sees that it happened. There's one, I guess, column for one step that says, done, true instead of false, right? So that piece is done.
But I guess my question is here, so I've got a read model, I've got a bunch of things. Are there events being generated from that read model, or the events generated from the source events?
No, the read model itself does not generate anything. It's any generation is done by an actor or a process, right? So
do I necessarily need an actor or process watching my state for state changes? They don't watch my state for state changes. They watch for events to happen, right?
No, they do. Sorry, I disagree.
Sorry, and that's what I want to understand.
No, they do. And I think that's the problem when we talk about reactive domains and all this kind of stuff, is that we circumvent or try to shortcut the fact that we're reacting to an event, because we're not really just reacting to an event. We're reacting to an event and seeing what state we're in and other things to see what we're going to do. And even if it's a pass-through and it's really empty, there is the idea that when I receive this event, things are in a certain state. And so that's why events always plug into a green box, a read model. And it's really important, because that shortcut is one of the biggest problems of missing information and requirements for systems. And that's where you end up having a plethora of too many patterns, because now you have, how many different combinations can we have? Commands can go straight to read models and events can go to commands, and events can go to read models, and read models can go to events or commands. Now you have, how many different types of connections. And now a combination of those can then give you many more molecules of different types, and you lose the cadence.
So if I'm hearing you correctly then, so my first two questions are which read model represents the state, and the second question is which events affect that state, right? Mm-hmm. Then if I'm looking at any step in this Saga, I would simply say for that step, which of those events am I listening to? And then my logic is I listen to that event, I check to see check that read model to see for logic appropriate state, and I decide what new to do, and I would generate an event for doing that.
Correct. You would.
So any step, no matter where it sits, no matter what subsystem it sits in, it follows that basic logic is listening to an appropriate events for its input, checking the state to get a reality check what it should do,
And then
and
issuing a
generate an
command.
event if it takes an action to generate state to change state.
Issue
And
a command.
that event that it generates should affect the view of that state. Otherwise, it's not part of the saga.
No, you can go indirectly. So the only reason that can do that is because, let's say there are multiple steps within the hotel booking thing. So
Right.
so that you may not get an event directly back. It might be a chain of different things that happen in that domain, and then at the end of that, there's an event that gets published that says hotel booked.
Right. So I might see a chain of events, but that event or a chain of events should eventually affect that read model of the saga. Otherwise, it's not part of the saga.
Correct. And then, I mean, that also may be some information, such as booking has been halfway completed. Like we were able to reserve your room, but now we're waiting to confirm that it's a seaside view, right? So
Can I re-verify?
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying any state that is contained in an event has to go to a read model and not trigger anything else directly.
Correct. Always.
Okay.
And that's very important. I think that's one of those things that that ends up with this proliferation of so many different patterns that end up being complications. And with
so regardless
proliferation
if it's
of
an internal
sorry, go ahead.
or an external event, right?
Sorry, go ahead again. I can hear you.
Regardless of it's an internal event or from a different subsystem / external event.
These are the basic building blocks. So yeah, you even and if it's something that's benign, it's still, you just put it there as a marker that at this point I recognize that this event means something for state in the system. If it's just pass through, there's nothing really there. That's fine, but you keep this cadence so that you have better numbers, first of all, for how long it's taking you to implement such systems, so that you can, decompose them the same way and get an average for how long things are going to be. So it's something that you think you're not going to use, and almost always, in our experience, those read models end up being very useful. What happens is that those read models end up being used in dashboards and all sorts of places that we didn't think we could use. And also what they end up doing is showing extra information for the process that we're trying to elaborate with our clients, that even though this doesn't really mean a lot, it means right now it's a checkpoint. Like, this event has happened. We may just add it to a list of events. Like, that read model might be so dumb that it just keeps adding, a copy of the event in it as a long ledger. That's fine. At least it's filtering on types, so you have a view of like all the payments that have happened or whatever. So it ends up being quite useful. It may actually be a representation of a queue in your deployment, right? So they may actually end up mapping to specific technologies that you're using and can talk about. We've always seen this as a, well, let's see if this is a good thing to do. And from our experience, it's been excellent, because we find that it maps to so many different concepts, especially when you have this. I know there's a lot of talk about having the reactive domains where you just go like, this event happened and it kicks off this command.
Right. So you're saying
so much in the middle is missing.
Adam, so what you're saying is that whenever I say this event kicks off this command or this event, what you're saying is you're taking a shorthand, so there's a hidden slice in there where there's a process that's listening to that event and has its own read model and is deciding what to do.
That's correct.
If you just draw that slice,
yes,
then you can reason about its behavior in the same pattern as everything else, in the same principles, where what's that view? Is it just a list of events, or is it a queue, or is it something else?
Exactly. It gives you a proper check.
And it's basically would react to that event,
yes,
and decide what to do based on the state, and then would need to, if it may generate a new event which affects its own state, or it may generate an event that affects, in most cases, it generates an event that someone else is listening to, and that's what we're talking about with our shorthand, right?
Yeah,
Do
I
you
mean,
issues a command?
Issues
no,
a command.
no,
Yes.
the processors do. So I'm going to share my screen
Yes,
again
that's right.
here.
You're right. I did. It doesn't generate an event. It issues a command that generates an event. So it's a process that listens to that event, checks the view of this, checks this view, the read model, and then, if necessary, issues a command to generate that event. So that slice, read model process, that is a slice where, and I think that's really, if you get explicit, then you can talk about it as an implementation spec at the event modeling level. In stuff like event storming and places like that, that shorthand may be sufficient because you're not down into the implement.
Well, I think it's a bad shorthand. I think
it's a dangerous
it's only
shorthand.
hurt us before. And because even if it's doing nothing, I want to talk about why it's doing nothing. And if it's doing a translation, I want to know what information I'm dropping, right? A lot of this is just like, oh no, we can go faster and get those ideas out fine. That's okay. To go fast, just list the events in order. That gives me the gist. But when I want to actually use it as a method to then describe how long the project's going to take, how we're going to actually implement this thing, I need cadence to these patterns so that we can discuss, is that just a queue or whatever, right? We can then get an average of every time we make a state projection, every time we automate, right? That's why in this interface here, when we have like a job, we can have the name of, let's say kitchen scheduler, right? And job kitchen scheduler, that should be fine. So the kitchen scheduler, it has, things to cook. Save that. That goes to here. Hey, what the hell? Come on, Bobby. Why is this not connecting? It's supposed to connect. Okay, whatever. I think I need a button or something on these things.
Yeah, Adam, I had that problem on dark mode. You can't see the wheel that you want to attach the.
Yeah, I just gotta give Bobby some feedback.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was my world because I'm in the world of Windows. I see that most of you guys are avoiding Windows like the plague. So
I'm Linux only, but yeah.
Are you calling your editor Bobby?
No, Bobby's the guy that came up with ONote. So what else?
Oh.
Yeah.
You
Why am I
go
not
the other
able
way,
to connect this?
Adam?
Yeah,
you have to go the other way, don't you?
Sorry, I can't hear you. What?
You need to draw the other way, don't you, from your button to your command? Is that?
That's what I thought, but I'm not sure why it's not giving me the little thing here.
You're stuck in pan mode.
Am I? Is there a pen mode?
Pan, like you're
pan.
The hand to me it means you're panning around.
It could be worse. You could be stuck in solitaire.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, click on your interface. Click on the white interface element, and then can you? Oh, yeah, you still can't draw, can you?
Maybe this is Firefox. That might be a problem. But anyway, you can see what's going on. Let's see if I can do a button here. I guess not. Job.
There it is.
Okay.
No, Bobby, just disable the feature flag specifically for you, Adam.
I
don't know if that did it.
You don't have any. You don't have any markup that you could just lay on top and. Yet.
Oh, look at that. So weird. So it has that. Oh, that draws it. Okay, that's good. Can I draw that? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's it. Okay, cool. So he did do it. So kitchen schedulers, like I don't need that element. You can just have that gear. So I don't know if I can.
Oh, now you're in trouble.
Okay, can I just delete this thing?
Yeah, it's a dark mode thing. Adam, I struggled with it as well. I had to switch to light mode.
Okay, I destroyed this one. Okay.
Have to switch out of dark
mode.
mode.
It's alpha, right?
Are we going gonna choose which is more painful for you, Adam?
I don't know, man. I Control Z worked. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. Nah, it's gone. Okay. Can do another one. Interface. Job. So that's weird that it has this thing as something I can drag, but it goes behind. Okay. See that? Can I go here? Nope. You must probably get dropped on here. Oh yeah. Okay. So, code instructions.
Why would you? Yeah, that's some weird.
Whatever. I was just trying to get it to work. Oh, this thing's still connected, sort of. Okay. Well, that's fine.
Good enough.
Okay, good enough. We'll fix it. There we go. It's almost gone. Next command is, yeah, go cook this thing, right? Cook these things. And then that. Yay. Perfect. That's not cook instructions. Shoot. Bad name. No, I shouldn't have done that. I can't even find this thing now. Come on, come on. Come on. Really? Oh,
No
is
way.
it because of that? Okay, I'm really screwing things up now. Okay. Good thing this is recorded. I'll play it back to Bobby. Yeah, so cook these things. This is not supposed to say cook instructions. It's supposed to say cook scheduler or something like that, right? And then, you know, food cooked. And you could have multiple of these, right? Does it have control duplicate? No, that's a bookmark anyway. I guess I can't duplicate these things, but all right, food cooked. I think I need another one of these to copy. Bobby said we're gonna do this things to cook. Actually, this is not the right thing. We should call this as the order slip, right? Because that'll end up being our like receipt at the end of the visit.
Yeah, the order slip can be used for the invoice,
Exactly.
but it's not the invoice. It's
But order slip once used to be paid. Is it order slip anymore? Like, is it an invoice or an order slip?
We just call it. We just give it. That's our Saga, right? So we have to find out, you know, what that is. Maybe in this context we call it visit, cafe visit, or whatever. And then it ends up
call
being
the read model something like food to serve, or
it could, but that's just one thing, right? So we
serving
want to
the food is one
have.
thing, but cooking the food, all that stuff, it's really the order, right? They might have not just food in there.
Well, you have to bring the food as well, right? So order up is food is ready. What are we doing here? This is yeah, deliver.
Serve.
Deliver. Yeah,
Think
serve
about it.
food.
When I order drinks, the drinks go to the bar, the food goes to the kitchen.
Well,
right?
let's not complicate things right
No,
now.
but I'm saying like not everything about the order slip goes to the kitchen.
That is true. So I'm not sure how they do that in that cafe. I think, well, I'm thinking about a cafe. There's one long counter, and they kind of have everything behind there, and there's a window. So they kind of share. You're right, Rick, because in front of that kitchen counter, there is like the drinks counter and stuff that like the waitresses can take care of themselves as well.
There's a cook kitchen where they have to make burgers and fries.
Yep.
They take a piece of that. They do the.
I'm
burger,
thinking of SpongeBob, right? Squidward is out
Yeah.
front, and he has the window behind him.
Yeah. So
Who watches SpongeBob?
So
going back to my restaurant days, Adam, in the old world, the waitress would take the drinks order on a separate ticket completely, and for the food service, it would be carbon copied, and she would keep hold of the order.
Right. Yes.
The
Yes.
carbon copy ticket would be given to the chefs.
Correct.
And then
So we
that
would
whole
have,
thing gets reconciled.
yeah.
And so I personally would have created a ticket item, and then the cooking process is working through that ticket of things to cook. And as things become cooked, you're kind of crossing off the ticket, what's been cooked.
Right.
And that becomes your saga. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes sense. Shoot, I know what I'm making. There's a problem here. I need to edit this whole interface name. So this would be
Yeah.
this.
I'd say just be aware of the fact that this order slip, the thing of the pen and paper world. But if you want to, in an agnostic way, a more general way, model these things, you might call them different things. Just
Yeah.
like, not order slip, but yeah,
Sure, but
food, ready to serve food or whatever. And would it be based all on electronic devices? Then yeah, you generate some kind of receipt or invoice at the end. Just in this one very specific implementation, an old school diner, it would be or still be this one physical thing, but they may still use a different language.
Right.
Like, may I
they may just
take
call it,
order?
they may just simplify it to the order, right?
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's an order slip is the paper, but honestly, online it might just be the order, right?
Yeah.
So, what did we order? Do we have everything we ordered, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's on our order, right? And then out of what's on their order, what are we billing them for, right? All these things. Out of what's on this order, what am I supposed to, as a chef, cook, right?
Yeah.
So, but order slip is good enough to start with. But yeah.
I think what Andrea is trying to say is maybe when it changes state, maybe it becomes something else. So it's just like water and ice. When it's liquid, maybe that's what he's trying to say. Maybe when honestly change the states to the customer is eating the food, so it now becomes a receipt or something.
Yeah.
Or if the customer paid, it becomes a receipt.
There's events where food is ordered, food is cooked or plated or whatever they happen to. Depends how fancy they want to get in the restaurant. It's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on to which detail you want to solve edge case problems. Like the order might be different from the actual food served because you order something and then the cook says, oh, we just ran out of X, Y, Z. And then you might decide differently than you have an initial order and then
you're compensating, you're changing your order, right? So you're like removing, you're saying I'm ordering something new and I'm essentially not ordering that, right?
Yeah, but it also depends on, do you want to track that these things have happened? If not, you might call everything just order. If you want to model it, then you use different words.
Right.
Save all those events. And yeah, just again, in the real, let's say in the pen and paper world, it would be based on the one physical thing where you strike through a dish and put another one on it or something. Right. Yeah, you might use the same language, but if you want to model it maybe more precisely, you'd use more words, more precise words or something.
Right, like it might be in deliver food, it's probably more dish. I delivered this dish, that dish.
Yeah, you have to do, I'm simplifying this. Yeah, you could keep going with this example, and obviously the making drinks versus cooking something on the grill would be dispatched to other people. That's actually a good example of the fulfillment type of thing where you have that order slip with different items, but they're encoded. You can say this goes to the cook, this goes to the waitress. It could, and this is what Greg goes on about, these specific types of sagas that are called fulfillments, where the read model actually has instructions of what to do. Like you can see as the data in the actual slip that this is, and that just might be convention in a diner. There's a milkshake there, and obviously the milkshake the cook can't make. The milkshake machine is where the waitress can go and use it. So, but that's a really good example of these fulfillments being just regular read models, these sagas that happen to be fulfillments, that happen to be long-running workflows, that happen to be within one or more services, you can think about them this way. So I hope that helps. Pardon me while I do that. I like you guys chatting while I do things. That's good. I don't have to talk.
So, I mean, this, as you see, it sounds like a simple thing, but this is as complicated as doing an order from Amazon, where you might, you know, and same with Amazon, in each of these contexts, order has different meanings, right, for Amazon.
Yeah.
Whereas like the things that get delivered to my door, that's the order's been shipped. The truth is, I make one order, I might get 3 packages, right?
Yeah.
But in shipping, they call it an order, right, or package, or whatever they call it, right? So they have orders for shipping because they go to different fulfillments. So this is the same thing as this. I order a bunch of stuff. It goes to different fulfillments, and it may get delivered at different times in different random groupings, right?
Yep.
You know, so, and eventually, did I get everything I ordered? I think you missed a dish, right? That happens all the time. So,
yep.
Or we're out of that. Now I got to change my order. Okay?
Yep.
I gotta ask you guys something here. How would you rate sagas? I mean, how important would you rate them in the event sourcing space? Because when I look at it, I just see, you know, a workflow thing, right?
I mean, I do too. I don't think it's as important as they make it out to be. I honestly think it's
big data, having a crap load of events, tracing behavioral patterns, reacting to these patterns in real time. I think that's the strongest point of event sourcing. I think Sagas is.
I think
not rating that high.
No, it's not. I don't think it is. I agree with you.
I think if you just decide that Saga is the implementation view of our workflow, like how did we implement this workflow? Let's look at the Saga. Then it's like, what's the difference between Saga and workflow? Well, the Saga is our implementation view of that workflow. How is it implemented? Where's the state held, right?
Yeah.
And that's at least helpful. Otherwise, why are we using the word at all, right? We just call it a workflow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that helps us say, like, why are we using this goofy word, right? Oh, the goofy word is this is how the workflow is implemented, where its state is, where its state changes. That's what the Saga is all about. And then
one thing, I'd say one thing
adds value. Otherwise, I'm not sure it adds any value.
Yeah, Rick and Aaron, I would say one thing becomes very clear. It's not part of base event modeling, what the foundations is, because Adam, in a lot of talks and workshops, you introduced it like you go away from all these terms that you have to learn, like in domain-driven design, because it's too complicated. It should be simple. And you saw how long we talked about this, and it's not clear enough. Even we are not clear on this, but don't have a shared understanding. So how should we explain it to our clients or our customers?
Well, why would they ask you about a Saga? That's the thing. Like, this is the idea, is that you just don't, I mean, are they asking you because they heard the term at a conference where something was being sold as middleware? Or there was a technical architect that brought in a bookshelf of patterns books, and he's the oracle of how to get things done properly. That's the shirking the responsibility for everyone owning the architecture of the information system, and it's not a technical one. So it depends who you're talking to. Like the customers and clients that we have that are non-technical, or at least don't want to be technical, and they say, this is what we want the system to do. They show us what the user's experience should be and what information they want to capture. And that's enough. They don't have to have a saga explained to them. I never have to explain a saga to them. We end up having a read model that, you know, plays a part in a lot of the steps. Like this order slip here plays a part, you know, in a lot of the steps that in their workflow to be successful. I don't have to label this as a saga, and I can still get the work done.
Yeah. Maybe we could put it like, or let's say it's not part of the base model. It would be an overlay, like maybe a layer.
I don't know why you would want it in there. What would it help?
No, I don't. I just wanted to make it clear that it would not go in there. And for some technical aspects to point out, maybe you could use an overlay, a layer to point out things.
Well, I think the key thing is here is this. If you look at the entire model that's being laid out here, right? It represents via swim lanes, by example, a long running workflow.
Yep.
Right? So when you say, where do I draw the workflow? Well, zoom out, you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Right? I think there is no specific, these lines, these things, how does this workflow transitions across all these things? What you choose to draw on this, you can draw your entire business, or you could draw one that reference, by example, from beginning to end, a customer coming in, ordering food, getting served food, and paying the bill, and say, my workflow is service the customer. That's my saga. I want to get them their food, get their money, get them out the door, right? And so that's my goal. And say, we could model that entire process along this timeline.
Yep.
Say, that is my saga.
Yep.
Right? So there's no thing on the event model that is a saga. You can use an event model to describe a saga. I think that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly, like, nothing about event modeling stops you from elaborating a technical saga. Like, for example, Mazen said, you know, sagas can contain logic, if statements. Of course they do. But in this decomposition, some of the if statements are here in terms of like how the data gets displayed.
Well, they would,
and some of the if statements are here in terms of, you know, whether we deliver the food to the table. Sorry, maybe another one here where go cook these things, you know, might be go make this drink. You know, let's just add that in here. Make this drink, right? Because that's a different person, and this is where, you know, we can have the waiter making the drink. So drink.
Well, it would be order, drink ordered. That's it.
Well, whatever it is, I'm just making the drink. We ordered the drink already.
Bartender.
Or make drink made. That's fine.
But look what swim lane it is in.